everybody, and welcome to Self-Help FAQ, the YouTube channel. I'm Barb, your host, and this is video number 2 in a 12-video series all about boundaries and all the subcategories of boundaries. First one was about self-trust, and this one is about second-guessing yourself and why it happens. Now, you might feel that if you're always second-guessing yourself, it's a personality flaw. It's times when you might be rethinking a decision you've made. Maybe you replay conversations in your head. You wonder if you even chose the right option. And maybe you think you should have waited, done more research, or asked one more person their opinion on something. It's not that you're incapable of making a decision. It's just that the decisions feel heavy. And today I want to talk about why this happens and what's usually missing when decisions feel this hard. So many people assume that second guessing means they need more information, that in many cases it's not a lack of information, it's a lack of internal criteria. When you don't know what matters most to you, every decision you make becomes a negotiation with other people's opinions, with imagined outcomes, or maybe even with future regret. So instead of deciding, then you stall, or you decide and then immediately question it. The constant mental back and forth is what drains you. So this is where values come in. Some people confuse values with, say, preferences. I like this better than that. Or rules. I should do this rather than that. Or goals, like I want to achieve this thing. But values are different. Values are what you prioritize when there's conflict. They answer questions like, what matters when I can't have everything? What am I willing to protect? What trade-offs am I willing to live with? So when values are unclear, decisions feel personal and fragile. When values are clear, decisions become simpler, even when they're hard. Let me give you a few personal examples of the questions that are asked when you are trying to nail down your values and you come up upon something that's conflicting. So the first question that I raised was, what matters more when I can't have everything? So in my situations, it's been relationships, really. It's kind of like everyone is different in a relationship, and you can't get everything you want in one person. So what matters most when you can't have everything? And maybe honesty is very important in a relationship. You want someone who's honest, and maybe you're getting someone who's honest, but maybe they're not as talkative as you would like, so they're not outgoing. And maybe you want someone who's outgoing, but you also want someone who's honest. Which one is more important to you? Well, of course, I think it would be honesty no matter who you're talking about. That's a very strong value to have, honesty. Integrity, maybe, is another one. You want someone who will stick with it with you, work things out, be willing to talk about things. Maybe you're getting one value that you like in a person, but they walk away from conversations or conflicting decisions, conflicting ideas. So you have to decide, are you willing to take this one great thing for this other thing that's not so great? So that's one thing. And the other question I raised was, what am I willing to protect? In your case, could it be, do you want to protect your freedom? Like you need a certain amount of time to yourself? For instance, I'm someone who needs a lot of alone time, and that might conflict with somebody who wants someone who's around all the time. and doesn't like to be alone a lot. So these are things that you have to think about when you're getting into a relationship. And what trade-offs am I willing to live with? And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Everybody has to make a trade-off when they're in a relationship usually. I don't think anything is ever perfect in a relationship. And we do have to make some trade-offs, exchange one thing for another. So maybe a trade-off could be something like you want your time alone, but the other person wants more time with you. So you'll have to trade off some of your time for the intimacy that the other person wants. So that's an example of a trade-off. I think I've had to do that when I didn't realize I wasn't spending enough time with my partner before. And so I made a trade-off. I gave up some of my time to spend time with my partner, and so that worked out for the better. So when you don't decide based on values, you decide from things like fear of regret, fear of judgment, fear of missing out, or fear of being wrong. And that's when second guessing takes over. Because if the decision wasn't anchored internally, your mind keeps searching externally for reassurance. So clear values act like a compass, like an internal compass. While they don't guarantee comfort, they will reduce your confusion. So as we're talking about when you're making decisions without taking into account your values, one of the things I mentioned was fear. One of the fears you might have would be fear of judgment. And in my relationships in the past, a lot of times I would stay longer than I was supposed to or should have, because I had fear of judgment from my friends, that if I walked out on another relationship, there I am, I must be the loser because I'm leaving another relationship. And so I allowed myself to stay in bad relationships because I didn't want to look like the bad guy, or the bad girl in that case. So that's one of the examples I wanted to give there. I think fear of being wrong is another one. Sometimes when you start a brand new relationship, you talk up that person to all your friends and how great they are, but behind closed doors they turn out to be someone else. And you think to yourself, well, I really can't leave now because I told everybody how great this person was. And so now you have the fear of being wrong. Like maybe your friends told you so and you're afraid they're going to throw it in your face. And that might keep you in longer too, because you don't want to be shown that you were wrong. And so that's an ego thing that you have to get over. But anyway, in video 9, I talk more about these kinds of reasons why people might stay in relationships when they don't decide things based on their own values, not on others' expectations. So be sure you tune in to video number 9. So here's the quiet shift that happens when values are clear. You stop asking, what would a reasonable person do? What will people think? What if this is a mistake? And you start asking, does this align with what matters to me? Can I live with this trade-off? Does this protect my time, energy, or future self? That's internal authority. And when decisions come from that place, second guessing loses its grip. So now here's your journal question for this week. The question is, when I'm second guessing a decision, what value feels unclear or unprotected? Again, when I'm second guessing a decision, what value feels unclear or unprotected? You're not trying to define all your values all at once. You're just noticing where clarity is missing, and that's enough. So if you're always second guessing, it's not because you're incapable of deciding. It just means that you're trying to decide without a compass. And that is something that you can change when you work on it. Okay, so that's it for today's video on second guessing yourself. And the problem is you probably aren't coming from a place of values when you're making decisions. So please let me know in the comments if any of this resonated with you. Maybe you can tell me why you might stay in relationships longer than you should have. And let me know if you're second guessing yourself and what could be the reason. And if you have an answer to the journal question that we had, where is it that you feel unclear or unprotected? And so tune in next time. We'll have a follow-up Friday this week based on the second guessing and values. And I hope to see you then. In the meantime, have a great day, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.